Okay, remember that they are changing my voice. In order to understand Isaiah 29, you have to understand the difference between all the racist whites, Jews, and LGBT people who are racist on a spectrum, and me. Okay, those people I've just described, other than me, have led the world astray. And they've made it so no one is on the way to go to heaven except for my parents and I. Now let's zoom in on verse 20, which makes it clear that I'm right. It says, the ruthless will vanish, the mockers will disappear, and all who have an eye for evil will be cut down. This connects to Psalm 118, which says, all the nations, again, all the nations surrounded me, but in the name of the Lord I cut them down. The nations are full of people who are immature and ruthless, right? Petty, narcissistic, immature, and certainly ruthless in the sense of being some kind of punk or some kind of big idiot brute who isn't smart enough to serve God and to die serving God. And then they kind of live in a dog-eat-dog planet after that. So how will the ruthless vanish and the mockers disappear? And how will all who have an eye for evil be cut down, right? To he who has an eye for good, they see. Those who have an eye for evil, those who want to cheat me out of my right to lead, those who are cheating me out of my right to lead, whether or not they know that I'm here, they'll be cut down, especially because worms like to say things like, well, they don't know you're here. And I've gone over this many times. And destiny covers it even if they don't know. The children that die in the womb, or they die in birth, or they die at a young age, they didn't know anything. But God puts them in the right place. The wicked who have children, are dumber than the wicked who have an abortion, or a righteous woman who has an abortion. Because this world is so damn evil. Imagine bringing an evil child into an evil world. That takes a dumb person. And thank God I am not them. Thank God I did not roll with the white and Jewish and LGBT explanation of the Bible. My goodness, they're colonialists. They're colonists. They're neo-colonists. They don't care about their families. They hate their families enough to organize against me and to persecute me for 4 decades and 3 years on this planet, never correcting their mistake out of pure hatred for God, themselves, and their children. And out of that hatred, they derive some kind of pleasure at times and try to convince themselves that it's all magically worth it. It's not. My goodness, are they dumb? My goodness, they are extremely disgraced with no way back. Them and their offspring will vanish to God. Them and their offspring will disappear, and everyone else who cheated me out of my right to lead because they have an eye for evil, whether they know it or not. How can you, who come from thousands of years of disgraced and evil scum, turn around and say that your offspring hasn't been given a fair chance? Are 5, 4, and 3 generations of imbeciles enough? Even your eugenicists who you follow said that. So you see that in some cases there's 3 generations alive at the same time, some cases 4 or 5. And in this case, in some cases, families are gang stalking me. And there's 3 generations aware of what's going on, all of them moving in the satanic spirit of the gang stalkers, of the governing class, what have you. Their grouping of spirits, their collective spirits, their spirit of rebellion. And in a lot of other cases, their whole family wasn't aware. They may as well have been aware because they think the same. They have that certain satanic uniformity that God despises. To this day, not a single one of them even begins to understand that a short righteous life is greater than a long wicked life. When they look back at the mockers in the Bible, subconsciously they relate to them. They think that they did the smart thing or something. We are talking about idiots here. We're made more and more dumb every generation for all the evil things that they take part in. So let's look at Isaiah 29 and keep in mind that the essence of this chapter is that the righteous are going up and the wicked go down after pitiful, pitiful lives. They're mockers. They are mockers. That is a pathetic life to live. Like a satanic Shaggy-Doo. A satanic Shaggy-Doo from Scooby-Doo. Like Dick Dastardly and Gargamel. They're like Lex Luthor plotting to have sex with a child. They are pathetic. They turn a blind eye to mass child molestation. How many of their family members have been molested or even are being molested right now? And they're in the same spirit. I mean, how dumb is that? The same spirit that's molesting their family members, that rape their wives, because so many women in America, for example, got raped. They're in the same spirit. They may as well be handing them over to get raped right now because they're in that spirit. They're helping them do it. And they're making sure that other people go through that too. Very pathetic. It is impossible to be a man and to be a gang stalker unless you were my parents because they're blameless. Other than that, it's impossible to be. They have failed to the very core of failure, to the essence of failure. Isaiah 29, woe to David's city. Woe to you, Ariel, the city where David settled. Add year to year and let your cycle of festivals go on. Yet I will besiege Ariel, she will mourn and lament. She will be to me like an altar hearth. Okay, so what is happening here is you see that there's more than one way to interpret this, but there's one main way. If you look at the story centers around me, and that is the only thing you need to explain, then it's talking about how God is allowing the wicked to encircle around me, because that is what is actually happening. So the interpretation has revealed itself. There's many possibilities. And that it's like a test, because I'm also related to a bunch of worms one way or another, right? Because it's one big human family. So we're all kind of related. So because of that, the wicked have encircled around me, right? It's like the parable of the 10 virgins. 5 were prepared. How? They were prepared because they prepared for a time. And a virgin is like a house or a nation or a grouping of people in that context. And so the wicked are encamping around me, and God said, hey, he's going to let that occur. God is represented in the obstacle course, though they are not in the Spirit of God. Again, the wicked, though God uses them to refine the righteous, are not in the Spirit of God, and they won't be rewarded for their pathetic behavior and actions. The Hebrew for altar sounds like the Hebrew for Ariel. So it's also, woe to you, Ariel, you who are the gate, you who are the altar, you who change state. You can be look at it as it's my actual flesh-based temple, or the altar, the essence of my flesh-based temple to some degree, where the altar is, and the essence of the altar being the soul and God, what have you. I will encamp against you on all sides. I will encircle you with towers and set up my siege work against you. Brought low, you will speak from the ground. Your speech will mumble out of the dust. Your voice will come ghost-like from the earth. Out of the dust your speech will whisper. But your many enemies will become like fine dust, the ruthless hordes like blown chaff. Suddenly in an instant, right? They'll return to the dust disgraced, filth, discarded, because they didn't do God's work. Says God made man from the dust. He said, well, I'm going to discard the part of mankind. You might say the part of the spirit of mankind that needs to be purged because it's evil, it's rebellious, it's cowardly, what have you. The Lord Almighty will come with thunder and earthquake and great noise, windstorm and tempest and flames of a devouring fire. Then the hordes of all nations that fight against Ariel, that attack her and her fortress and besiege her, will be as it is with a dream, with a vision in the night. As when a hungry person dreams of eating but awakens hungry still. As when a thirsty person dreams of drinking, but awakens faint and thirsty still, so will it be with the hordes of all the nations that fight against Mount Zion. Be stunned and amazed. Bind yourself, be sightless, be drunk, but not from wine. Stagger, but not from beer. The Lord has brought over you a deep sleep. He has sealed your eyes, the prophets. He has covered your heads, the seers. For you this whole vision is nothing but words sealed in a scroll. And if you give the scroll to someone who can read and say, read this please, they will answer, I can't, it is sealed. Or if you give the word to someone if you give the scroll to someone who cannot read and say, read this please, they will answer, I don't know how to read. The Lord says these people come near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Their worship of me is based on merely human rules they have been taught. Or they worship me in vain, their teachings are merely human rules. So people are supposed to separate themselves from the masses of people who do not love God enough to die in the divine order, right? Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and the ruling king, which is me. The last valid king on earth, no matter what. Then it goes off to the new heavens and the new earth, which is not on this planet. It's in the spiritual realm where those in the flesh, after my flesh dies, cannot go. So one must separate themselves from these people who worship in vain. They've just merely followed the church, the mosque, the synagogues, some light worker movements. They have some mentors, there's some gang stalker, military police, just these groups of people that are just following human rules. You know, perhaps it's most embodied in a boarding school or something where there's these fanatic human rules and they don't know what they're doing in life whatsoever. Therefore, once more I will astound these people with wonder upon wonder. The wisdom of the wise will perish, the intelligence of the intelligent will vanish, right? Those who are intelligent in the eyes of the world. Woe to those who go to great depths to hide their plans from the Lord, who do their work in darkness and think, who sees us? Who will know? You turn things upside down as if the potter were thought to be like the clay. Shall what is formed say to the one who formed it, you did not make me? Can the pot say to the potter, you know nothing? Right? They turn things upside down, right? Everyone's shunning me instead of shunning the evil. Everyone's standing against me instead of standing against the governing class. They are evil. They have things backwards. In a very short time, will not Lebanon be turned into a fertile field, and the fertile field seem like a forest? In that day the deaf will hear the words of the scroll, and out of gloom and darkness the eyes of the blind will see. Once more the humble will rejoice in the Lord, the needy will rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. The ruthless will vanish, the mockers will disappear, and all who have an eye for evil will be cut down. So everything that reminds you of that wickedness is cut down. This is the planet itself. It's the people and their flesh itself. Can you imagine that in this world with artificial intelligence where you don't know if your brain is hacked into delusion, after my flesh dies, it will be very much in that situation. The world will be very much in that situation. That you think that this can come true in this world. That there's few things that are more delusional and sick and pathetic than people who think that God's kingdom is going to come to this defiled world in the same book where it says the wicked return to the dust. They compare them to chaff. They compare them to things in this world. As if paradise isn't greater than this world. So all the excrement and all the foul things that are floating in the air are magically okay to have in heaven or something, or in a divine place. Very silly, very sick. Once more the humble will rejoice in the Lord, the needy will rejoice in the Holy One of Israel, the ruthless will vanish, the mockers will disappear, and all who have an eye for evil will be cut down. So you get these utter nerd, frat-like clowns, these corporate clowns, these government clowns, these military clowns, who use technologies to act like some kind of circus child molester or something, some kind of hazing worm. And they cause me to stumble on my words. What they're doing is very immature and very pathetic, very flesh-based, very cowardly. Their spirits are laughable. The Lord's right hand is lifted high over these worms, over the military, over the governments, over the corporations, over the churches, the mosques, the synagogues, over these angry homosexuals, especially here in California, who come from a family that never produced a man ever in its history, just complete punks. These sniveling dogs. And I mean within reason, right? You know, at some point we're all related, but at the point where it definitively became their family and not all the human family. These sniveling cowards. Shouts of joy, rejoice. Rejoice. Shouts of joy resound in the tents of the righteous. The Lord's top martial artist, who's the top martial artist ever possible, is exalted, lifted high, exalted above the Jews and the whites and the LGBT. Those who try to pretend that's not the case. Those who are silent out of fear and cowardice, who roll with it. Those with the racial arguments. All racial supremacists are beneath my feet. The Lord's top martial artist, the top martial artist ever possible, which is me, is lifted high. Those who with a word make someone out to be guilty, who ensnare the defender in court, and with false testimony deprive the innocent of justice. Those who do want to admit that I'm above everybody from every race. Therefore, this is what the Lord who redeemed Abraham in the story says to the descendants of Jacob. No longer will Jacob be ashamed. No longer will their faces grow pale. Who is he talking about? Is he talking about the Jews in Israel are here? No. He's talking about the churches, saying they're grafted in? No. He's talking about a certain spirit in the story, which the simple answer is superimposed on something else. Somebody who's trying to redeem himself. Someone who went from being a thief, right? Jack Obi. To someone who rallied and obeyed God through me in time. Not after my flesh dies. Not some worm in the churches pretending that after my flesh dies they're magically redeemed or something. That's sick. That is sick, sick, sick. No wonder they've raped so many children. They're sick. So again, therefore this is what the Lord who redeemed Abraham says to the descendants of Jacob. No longer will Jacob be ashamed. No longer will their faces grow pale. Cowardly, cowardly. When they see among their children the work of my hands, they will keep my name holy. They will acknowledge the holiness of the Holy One of Jacob and will stand in awe of the God of Israel. Those who are wayward in spirit, wayward, wording the Spirit of God in that sense. Those who are wayward in spirit will gain understanding. Those who complain will accept instruction. So you see how the Bible is saying how it ends. In reality, not in some stupid Western play or theater arts or church theater arts, not in stupid Masonic plays, not the silly Bohemian Grove where people are old who never grew up, dress up like little ninnies or something and put on a stupid childish play. But in reality, the fruit of God is bore by the righteous, not the whimpering, sniveling worms who are the sons of cowards and abominations and prostitutes, magic card worms, occult trash. Not only did they fail, they are the laughing stock of the righteous. It's one thing to be the least in the kingdom of heaven. It's another thing to be a sniveling, whimpering, completely scared, just sissy, pansy, punk-ass bitch. Utterly terrified at the thought of manning up like some sniveling worm who remains in this world, especially reproducing that kind of trash. When you don't have the heart to obey God through me, why wouldn't you at least stop reproducing that kind of filthy genes, those kind of toxic genes? It is fucking pathetic. And as I look at the glory of my life, as it's coming to an end, knowing full well I've triumphed, and I see a world that doesn't understand that a short righteous life is better than a long wicked life, I am utterly disgusted with them, and I'm completely against them, and in the name of God.